Flight control room, the first crew member is out of integrity. We are expecting the other crew members momentarily to be We now have 2 crew members out. Two crew members out, 2 to go. We're about 1 hour from sunset out in the Pacific. Everything continues to go well. Integrity's systems function perfectly during its entry back to Earth. And Reid Wiseman, the commander who will be last out of the vehicle, reported that all the crew members were feeling very well. Crew member number 3 now out. And now standing by for the commander, Reid Wiseman, who will be last out of his ship. Bobbing in the Pacific under almost ideal conditions, Integrity spanned 694,000 miles during its journey from launch to splashdown. And we now have Reid Wiseman out of the vehicle. All 4 crew members now out of Integrity. Crew members now on the front porch, and the procedure to begin hoisting them up to these 2 Navy helicopters hovering overhead will begin shortly. This is Mission Control Houston. The mission is over, but the melody lingers on as jubilation continues here in the flight control room. We should be expecting NASA's Associate Administrator, Amit Kshatriya, to be joining us shortly for a short interview while the recovery operations continue out in the Pacific. So we'll stand by for that. And then we'll turn it back over to Megan Cruz aboard the USS John P. Murtha. This is Mission Control Houston here in the Artemis Flight Control Room. A number of flight controllers basking in the glory of the successful end of this mission that carried 4 astronauts around the moon on a lunar flyby. And the first test flight of Orion with crew members on board. Splashdown occurring an hour and 32 minutes ago after a flawless descent back into the Earth's atmosphere for the members in good shape, simply enjoying their time right front porch, as it were, the inflatable raft alongside of their Integrity spacecraft. We're expecting Amit Kshatriya, the NASA Associate Administrator, to join us here momentarily for a brief interview before we turn it back over to Megan Cruz aboard the USS John P. Murtha, the recovery ship. This is Mission Control Houston. We're about an hour and 34 minutes since the textbook splashdown of integrity in the Pacific to bring home our astronauts. And with us now is Amit Kshatriya, the NASA Associate Administrator. Amit, a little bit of history made tonight, a little bit of history made over the past few weeks. Your thoughts as this team here basks in the glow of what they just accomplished?
Yeah, Rob, we're here in the control center, and it's kind of overrun with jubilant folks in the Mission Control Houston, as well as engineering, and folks that just want to be here, part of it, as we watch our crew get extracted from the vehicle. And my thought is always about these teams. The team that's in the water right now, pulling the crew out. The team here in Houston that worked so hard over the last 10 days, no sleep to get this done. We still have some work to do to get the crew to the med bay here on the ship. They all look great coming out, so hopefully that won't be too long. I think we saw the administrator on the boat too, giving his thanks to the Navy team on the Mirtha, which they're just an incredible group of sailors. I was able to visit with them a couple weeks ago. And then if you pull it all the way back to the workers and the folks that joined the rocket at Michoud, that made the heat shield tiles that held together tonight, that stacked the vehicle in Florida, that integrated the vehicle in Denver, that fired the engines in Stennis, that fired the boosters in Promontory. I mean, this is the entire team, coming together and being tested by the environment that this machine went through. And they did it right. The work was good. They did it right.
You've said in a number of briefings, of course, and in other forums that this is just the first step. The cadence has to step up, as the administrator has indicated. Now, it's a little early for the full report card on how Integrity did, but did this mission ultimately, from your eyes view, exceed expectations?
It absolutely did. I mean, I was waiting to talk about this until we're in the water, and I think we still have, again, work to do to bring it in and really kind of go through it bolt by bolt and see what we learned. But I mean, so far, given what we learned during the mission and given how we performed on ascent, on entry, I always think about energy in terms of the states that you worry about the most. And every time we put these machines through these incredibly energetic states, they came through. So I'm fairly confident that we made a big step tonight to get us on the path towards the surface. I think the path to the surface is open now. We do have to do all the work, and we'll make sure we talk about that as cleanly as we can. We learned a few things during the mission, but I have to tell you, this was an incredible test of an incredible machine.
From an American psyche standpoint, the Empire State Building was lit up red, white, and blue tonight. Our coverage was seen on baseball stadiums around the major leagues. How captivating was this experience for the American people, for the world, in fact, as we return to the moon?
I have not been able to watch a lot of the coverage as we've progressed through the mission. I will tell you, just from my witness in Florida before launch, and then seeing the people's faces here, and then reading where I can about how things are going. I think this has been a gift to the world from NASA. NASA has given the world a gift, proving to folks all over the place, especially young people, and that to me is what this is really about. Young people, when they see what we can do when we work together, when we have teams that collaborate, that it doesn't matter how hard the problems are, we can solve them. I'm hopeful that Artemis 2, as folks witness what we were able to do with this incredible crew, this incredible team that we've birthed into the world, scientists and engineers and artists that have been inspired by this. And even if they don't come work in the program, which separately they should come work in the program, because Lord knows we need the help, but even if they don't want to come work in the program, hopefully they grow up to recognize they can do amazing things when they work together and contribute to society and be good citizens and really change the way, the challenges that are coming in the world are overcomable if we work together like this.
And one final question. Flying to the moon, we did it. We've done it again this past week and a half or so. But the engineering that went behind the design of this mission and the precision, the pinpoint precision of this vehicle entering that entry corridor, it's almost mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is incredible when you think about the energies involved and the uncertainties involved. That when we inserted the vehicle into orbit, it was 99.2% down the middle. When we dropped the vehicle right on top of the fleet here, our guys knew exactly where to go, but the guidance was perfect. And it's interesting. I've got this question a lot over the last few weeks about we did this before 53 years ago, and that I think, I mean, it is a reasonable thing to contemplate, like what's gone on since then. And what I'd tell you is, when we did Apollo, which again, the more we learn about what they did, the more magical it seems what they were able to accomplish given the technology and the learnings that they had. But when we did Apollo, the architects of Apollo, Gilbert, Seaman, von Braun, Mueller, what they really, really wanted to do, as they were contemplating what it meant to expand our range of action to the lunar surface, what they wanted to do was learn how to live and work in space for a long time. They wanted to do that first before they were confident they could expand their range of action to the moon. Now, of course, the politics of the time and the mission at the time was different, and so they had to go straight to the moon and bring people home. And then after that, the program kind of lost its momentum. But after that, NASA kept moving along those paths, right? So we recognized during Apollo that reusability was going to be important. We spent a lot of money on those machines, and we spent a lot of money on these machines here. Even though, but we recognized that reusability was important, which is why we built a winged space plane called Space Shuttle, and then we used that reusable machine to build a space station. And we learned for 25 years how to live and work in space, and have been able to develop technologies that can enable exploration. So really, what I think is now, 53 years later, we're at the point where the architects of Apollo would have been pleased that we're now ready to actually go back to the moon and go back to stay, because we've learned all the things we needed to learn.
There's a lot of people pleased here tonight, and we really thank you for joining us, Amit. Amit Kshatriya, NASA's associate, hoist the crew onto the helicopters to head back to the recovery ship. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
congratulations, Amit. This is Mission Control Houston, with the crew members now beginning to be hoisted aboard the Navy helicopters. Let's go to Megan Cruz aboard the USS John P. Murtha, who will take it from here.
Hey, Rob. Yeah, back on the bow of the ship here, we are seeing the helicopters circling Orion. The first one there, having just completed picking up the first astronaut. Helo 2 now, hovering just 40 feet above the front porch, lowering a recovery specialist out of the helicopter. That person will touch down in the front porch just there. The crew members already outfitted with a harness that will allow them to quickly attach to the hoisting device. Look at the power of those blades throwing water out at the center there, the front porch, with now 3 astronauts and the recovery specialists. Again, crews already outfitted with a harness vest. And here we go. Second astronaut now off the front porch, getting hoisted into the second helicopter. That helicopter will now room for the first helicopter to come back or not. Make its way back around. Just want to mention that States called our NASA administrator today while he was on the ship, just minutes after we interviewed him live on our coverage, and congratulated him and NASA on this history-making moment tonight. Helicopter 1 again hovering 40 feet over the front porch, We will soon see another recovery specialist getting lowered onto the front porch. Wow, imagine sitting on that front porch, the wind, the water. But again, the recovery team determined that a helicopter flight back to the ship here would be safer, faster, and more comfortable for our crew who just completed a 10-day mission around the moon. Third astronaut in the air, getting hoisted quickly back into the first helicopter now. Helicopter now on its way back to the ship, away from us, so a very quick flight back. bay here on the ship right after we power down the helicopters here. The team on the flight deck working quickly but methodically. Waiting for just one more helicopter to touch down. Very limited personnel here on the flight deck.
Restricted maneuver doctrine is in effect.
As that third helicopter touches down.
The ship is at flight quarters. Stand clear of weather decks, of frame 095, or no cover stop side, thrown articles over the side, hold all trash and garbage on station. Flight quarters.
While just a few folks on the flight deck itself, there are plenty more on some upper decks. I see in some of our views
wing walls, vehicle storage area, and
a very packed crowd overhead. Announcements being made over the ship's loudspeaker system, reminding folks to stay clear of operational areas like the flight deck, so that teams can work quickly to get the crew off of the helicopters and into the medical bay. Splashdown today, 5:06 p.m. Pacific time. We are within 2 hours of that splashdown time, and already we have all 4 crew members on the flight deck of the USS John P. Murtha. Again, crew waiting before getting out for the helicopters to completely shut down. Safety, of course, very important to NASA and the U.S. military. So we'll wait just a couple of minutes here before we start seeing crew members walk off the helicopters one by one. All right, and now here we see pilot Victor Glover. And mission specialist Christina Cook sitting on the edge of one of the helicopters, looking in great spirits. That familiar smile and laugh from Victor, I can see it from here. Christina, I'm sure, feeling the same way, just blocked a little bit by our camera here, but we'll see her here shortly. A photographer taking their pictures. Victor saluting folks on the flight deck. They look like they're in great spirits. Happy to be home, I'm sure. If you're sitting at home, I hope you too are wondering, what would you want to ask them if you got a chance to talk to them? Because that is what I'm thinking about. Getting the opportunity to talk to or ask questions of these 4 astronauts who just made history as the first crew to return to the moon since 1972. Oh, there we see Christina there, also smiling, finally peering out, waving at the cameras. Hello to you too, Christina, yes. Welcome back. Welcome, welcome home. A loudspeaker announcement on the ship saying, "Welcome home, Integrity." Victor in great spirits. I can't see who he's talking to, but I kind of think that he might be talking to his other 2 crew members. Shouting from across the flight deck, congratulations to one another. And so now we see some Navy personnel walking up to the helicopter. This is again the first helicopter carrying pilot Victor Glover and mission specialist Christina Cook. Both have taken off their helmets now. Some pictures, video to catalog this historic moment. A beautiful sunset just behind them here in the Pacific Ocean. Golden hour. These pictures will be beautiful. Now we see NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman. He is on the flight deck, as well as Flight Surgeon Rick Schuring walking over to Victor and Christina first. We saw the administrator walk over to the other helicopter, which is carrying Commander Reed Weissman and Mission Specialist Jeremy Hansen. We heard from Rick earlier in the broadcast. Again, he said he's going to be out there on the flight deck to do another initial assessment of the crew, ask them how they're feeling, anything bothering them. But again, from what I'm seeing, they look like they're in great spirits and feeling pretty good for folks who just traveled 695,000 miles from Florida to the moon and now here to the Pacific Ocean. We're now seeing NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman walking across the flight deck. He had been talking to Reed and Jeremy, now approaching Victor and Christina. A hug from Victor, a hug from Christina. What a moment that we're getting to experience together. I'm sure congratulatory words. You know, we got to speak to the administrator live on this broadcast as well, and He said the kid in him right now, giddy, absolutely giddy at what we were able to accomplish today. Returning them home safely and in good spirits after a 10-day mission around the moon. And here we go. We're seeing Jeremy walking, waving across the flight deck, now on his way to the medical bay. It's a short walk, less than a minute. Again, that's why the recovery team decided to use helicopters to get them on the flight deck for that short walk to medical bay. And now on the flight deck, we see the chief of the astronaut office, Scott Tingle. Rick Schuring switching places. He's going over to the other helicopter. Big hugs from Victor, Christina to Scott. Again, a gorgeous sunset setting the stage for this recovery tonight. All right. And now here we are, Christina, making her way, looking thankful, grateful, happy to be home. You can see she's looking up. Again, lots of people, just a few levels up off the flight deck, welcoming her home. Scott holding the door like a gentleman, but back on his way to the other crew still on the flight deck. So still on the flight deck, Victor Glover and Reed Weissman. It looks like Victor will be the next one headed to medical bay. More hugs, more hugs. He's a hugger. Victor looking good as he walks across the flight deck. NASA administrator applauding. Victor applauding for all the folks on the ship with him who played a role in their safe return today. And finally, just one Artemis II crew member left on the flight deck, Commander Reed Weissman. Applause from the group there on the flight deck, I'm sure, as well as on the level just above them, packed with people. Reed looking good as he takes his steps towards the medical bay. See our 4 Artemis II crew members back on the ship. Again, now they will head into medical bay, where they will be assessed by flight surgeons from both NASA as well as the Canadian Space Agency. A more in-depth assessment. When they get to medical bay, they will each have their own nurse. They will be helped out of their suits. And then again, we'll check to see that they're feeling good. Make sure it's not just adrenaline, but that they are feeling good from their long journey back from the moon. Beautiful shot of that sunset. illuminating our flight deck. All right, and now with our astronauts safely on board, I want to welcome on Artemis Recovery Director Lily Villarreal. Lily, I don't know how you must be feeling right now. Ecstatic,
I'm
relieved?
so ecstatic, relieved. Of course, we still have to bring the capsule into the well deck of the ship, but this is a major milestone to have the crew here on the ship and in Medbay. You know, our team has been preparing and working really hard, and I'm just so proud of them all. Everything went very well, just as planned. Our teammates in Houston, the flight control team was just amazing. We were able to have great conversations and communications about everything. And I don't know what else to say. I'm just so ecstatic. It's such a wonderful feeling to get to this point. Again, we still have to get the capsule, but this is huge for all of us in landing recovery. And I couldn't do this without my team. And of course, the full support of the U.S. military. There's going to be lots of, high fives when we get the capsule back in. And I'm so happy that the crew's doing well. Ryan's doing well. And, thank you for everybody watching.
Yeah, it was great to watch the crew come back to the ship with you. How were you feeling when you were seeing them looking so happy to be home and feeling really good?
The funny thing is that we had video of them from inside the Orion vehicle. They were like that from the beginning. When we opened the hatch, they were already out of their seats, having a good time, waiting for us to open the hatch. And they opened the hatch, and of course, we did the first medical assessment. Everybody was doing very well, and they were just having such a great time with the medical team that was inside the capsule. I think they were all taking selfies with the phones that they have, probably talking about what they saw, and it was just smiles all around. They were having such a great time. And then we put them on the front porch when we were ready to put them on the front porch, and again, you could see they were just so ecstatic to be home and talking to everybody. So we were very happy to see all of that in the control room of the LFOC.
How remarkable is that? Again, if we think about their journey, the 695,000-mile journey around the moon and back, coming back at 30 times faster than the speed of sound. I mean, how remarkable is that they are in such good spirits?
I mean, this is an amazing crew. I think you guys have seen it for the past 10 days. They're wonderful people, and we're so happy that they brought us along on that ride. And I can't wait to see all the additional videos and pictures that they have that, we'll get a hold of now that they're back on the ground. And I can't wait to hear how, a little more than what we saw on the press briefings from the crew about what they saw. It's just fantastic. Some of my favorite people around this 10 days was the science team and how excited they were. And so this is exactly how we feel in the landing recovery team when the science team went, oh my goodness, when they heard all the discussions about the moon. This is exactly how we feel now in the landing recovery team. We're so ecstatic. Yeah. Again, we have to recover the capsule. I want to make sure we don't forget about our Orion.
Lily's all about business. She's thinking about what's next. But yeah, speaking of these 10 days, I mean, we have been along for the journey with them, live with them 24/7 for 10 days, and just really seeing the engagement that we've gotten from around the world. What do you hope people take away from this mission?
I think that's fantastic. So, my story was that I went to the Kennedy Space Center. I was born in Colombia. I was 10 years old when we moved to the United States, but when I was 7, my family took me to the visitor center, and that's when I learned about Apollo. And we went to the moon, and I learned about astronauts, and that story was what really fueled me to want to do STEM and want to be an astronaut. And I think that this Artemis program is going to do exactly what girls, my age back then is 7, young people right now, girls and even like young men, obviously. But we want to empower people to know that you can do this, right? If you want to come and work for NASA, if I did it, they can do it. And Artemis program is just going to inspire everybody. And I'm so happy about that. Yeah. Like Apollo inspired me.
Thank you so much, Lily. Really appreciate you being here. As you said, still a lot of work to do, 5 to 6 more hours to recover Orion that's still out in the water. So I'll let you get back to it. But you had beautiful words to say again. We hope that this inspires people. We hope that you come and join us at NASA and accomplish great things with us in the future. Back to you, Rob.
Thank you, Megan, and safe sailing out there in the Pacific. Here in Mission Control, it is now all quiet. The team of flight controllers and all their support personnel have left the room to enjoy the aftermath of a textbook touchdown by Integrity that splashed down in the Pacific right on target to complete this historic flyby of the moon, the Artemis II mission. With that, we'll wrap up our coverage for the night and point you to a post-splashdown news conference in 15 minutes at 9:35 p.m. Central Time, 10:35 p.m. Eastern Time, where managers will discuss the return of the Integrity spacecraft and the completion of the Artemis II mission. With that, we'll wrap up our coverage for this evening and historic mission in the history books. This is Mission Control Houston. Main chute deploy. And we have 3 good main chutes.
Houston Integrity, splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
Splashdown confirmed.
Copy splashdown, waiting on VLDR.
Splashdown confirmed at 7:07 p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time.
Artemis II mission is a test mission of the Orion space capsule.
Artemis II will be the first time we put humans on this rocket. We're going back to the moon because it's the next step in our journey to Mars.
We were always going to the moon.
Pushing ourselves to explore is just core to who we are. It's a part of being a human.
Return.
Continuing to test out every bit of Orion.
Coming back to Earth 7 miles in. Humanity sets big goals. We can bring together genius from around the world. You have the best people on planet Earth putting this vehicle together. To innovate for the benefit of humanity and to inspire the world through discovery.
Here we go.
19th, 1972, 2:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Command Module America splashes down in the Pacific with Gene Cernan, Ron Evans, and Jack Schmidt aboard as the Apollo 17 mission came to an end, along with humanity's first series of expeditions to the moon. Today at this hour, you are looking live at our planet from the Integrity spacecraft, heading for a splashdown in the Pacific off the coast of San Diego just 1 hour and 35 minutes from now. And good day from the Artemis Flight Control Room here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, where the entry flight control team is on duty at this hour, led by Flight Director Rick Henfling, joined on console with the voice you'll hear talking to the crew throughout the course of the day. That is Jackie Mahaffey, second from your left. Everything has gone extremely well as we are closing in on the return of Artemis's astronauts from their flight around the moon and historic lunar flyby that will culminate with that splashdown in the Pacific off the coast of San Diego just 1 hour and 35 minutes from now.
And with that, it's a good entry pad, and we can continue in the procedure.
Integrity.
You're looking at a live view inside Integrity. Reed Wiseman on the left doing a fist bump with pilot Victor Glover on the right, and down in the middeck area just below their feet, suited up in their launch and entry suits, are mission specialists Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen of the Canadian Space Agency. A number of milestones yet to unfold before splashdown just over an hour and a half from now. Earlier today, the crew woke up at about 10:35 a.m. Central Time. They completed the final major maneuver of the flight, that being the return trajectory correction 3 burn. It was an 8-second burn that fine-tuned its trajectory to enter a corridor over the Pacific Ocean a short time from now. That will be the point of entry interface, where the crew will reach the first traces of Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of 400,000 feet. The crew moved into its entry checklist just after 4 p.m. Central Time, suited up in those launch and entry suits, conducted leak checks, and now are in the final stages of their entry checklist.
Instruction 115 of entry checklist. SM separation ATP is go.
Houston copies.
The next major milestone on the route home.
Fully zipped, and they're working on EBS and then seating up.
We copy. Thanks for the status.
Jackie Mahaffey talking to Reed Wiseman aboard Integrity. The spacecraft now about 12,000 nautical miles from the Earth's surface. The next major milestone on tap for the crew will be the handover of communications from the Deep Space Network to the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System. The Deep Space Network came into play after the translunar injection burn back on April 2nd that propelled Integrity toward its lunar flyby. We'll be back on the TDRS network here in about 41 minutes. Following that, the next activity will be the pyrotechnic separation of crew module from the European service module. That is scheduled at 6:33 p.m. Central Time, followed 4 minutes later by one final critical maneuver. That will be a 19-second burn of Integrity's thrusters in what is called the crew module raise burn. Now, what that does is it basically acts, if you were sitting in a reclining chair, you'd basically tilt yourself back. It raises the aft end of Integrity ever so slightly, and that is the final opportunity for us to fine-tune the angle of attack of Integrity through the area of peak heating and entry interface that will come a bit later on, about an hour and 18 minutes from now. So after the raise burn, we will be in the final orientation that will minimize any peak heating on the heat shield of Integrity, and prior to the time the crew enters the Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of 400,000 feet. Entry interface. This is the critical time where the crew will reach the first traces of Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of 400,000 feet, traveling 34,882 feet per second. Just 24 seconds after entering the Earth's atmosphere, we will experience a communications blackout expected to last 6 minutes in duration. This is planned, and it is caused by the interaction of the velocity of Integrity with the friction of Earth's atmosphere. There will be a buildup of plasma around the vehicle, and that ionization will prevent any communications with the crew and any receipt of data by flight controllers here in Mission Control. That blackout is scheduled to begin at 6:53 and 54 seconds p.m. Central Time. Again, a 6-minute blackout that will end, if all goes as planned, at 6:59 and 55 seconds p.m. Central Time. At that point, we expect to regain communications with the crew and a reacquisition of data through the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System. We will have a series of roll maneuvers. These are computer commanded that will roll the vehicle slightly to the left, then back to the right. That will bleed off excess energy as we begin our peak period of velocity. We expect to reach a maximum velocity of 24,661.21 miles per hour, equivalent to about Mach 33 times the speed of sound, shortly after we enter that blackout period. Once we exit the blackout period, of course, we're in the denser regions of the Earth's atmosphere, and then we get set up for the parachute deployment sequence. First, the deployment of 3 forward bay cover chutes that will pull essentially the top forward bay cover off the very top of the Integrity vehicle. That will be followed by the deployment of drogue chutes, and then the final deployment of a series of 3 main parachutes at 7:04 and 44 seconds p.m. Central Time. From that point on, it is about 3 minutes or so until splashdown. Splashdown scheduled at 7:07 and 8 seconds p.m. Central Time at a gentle speed of 19 miles an hour. So just to give you some perspective, at the time that we enter the Earth's atmosphere, we're traveling somewhere around Mach 32. We will splash down at a speed of about 19 miles an hour. The G-forces that will build on the crew members inside Integrity will build to about 3.9 Gs. That is what is expected and what they are trained for and what the spacecraft is designed to support. The latest weather forecast out in the recovery zone off the coast of San Diego is a go forecast from our meteorologists here at the Spaceflight Meteorology Group at the Johnson Space Center. And standing by on the deck of the USS John Murtha is my colleague from the Kennedy Space Center, Megan Cruz. Megan?
Hey there, Rob. Yeah, welcome to the bow of the USS John Murtha. This is where we will report out live updates from the ship as NASA and the U.S. military work to recover our Artemis II astronauts in just about an hour and a half. How exciting. Now, right now, as you can see, we are out in the Pacific Ocean. We are just west of San Diego. We're actually staged about 6.5 miles away from where we expect Orion to splash down. And then we will incrementally move closer. So at the time of splashdown, we'll be about 5 miles away, and then we will move to 3.2 miles away. At that point, we'll pause to make sure that all the debris that might be coming down with Orion, because basically some parts of like the parachute system, they're jettisoned off Orion during descent. So we'll just want to make sure that those all land in the water and that we are safe to move even closer. So we will make sure that we can move a little closer, and at that point we will move to a mile away from Orion. And at that point the ship will circle the capsule while NASA and Navy recovery forces work to get our astronauts out, and we should have great views of the bow from here. But also we have a ton of cameras all around the ship. For example, we actually have some cameras right to the left of me here on the bow. These are very strong, stabilized cameras. We can really get up close to make sure that we are sharing all the images we have available to you. We also will have some views from above. We actually have 5 planes providing live views of splashdown today. In fact, some of those aerial assets just took off from San Diego minutes ago. And then actually here on the flight deck, you see 4 helicopters, the 2 in the back. Those will take off in about 30 minutes from now, also with live cameras. So again, lots and lots of imagery that we hope to share with you today. And then those 2 helos in the front, those 2 will pluck the crew out of the water and fly them back to our ship. Now, the combined team here on the ship, more than 550 people, left San Diego 4 days ago, and since then I've watched different teams train every day, rehearse, final preps to make sure that they're ready for today. So to give us more of an update about how recovery is going on right now, why don't we turn over to Paul here, Paul Serpinski. He is the Assistant Artemis Recovery Director. Great to have you here, Paul.
Great to be here, thanks.
Absolutely. So you just left the Landing Forces Operations Center here on the ship. How are you looking for recovery?
Right now, it's looking great. When I left, they were just about to get into weather briefing with Mission Control Center in Houston, but listening to the loops this morning and everything that's been going on, the return trajectory correction burn went great. They were right on the money, right down the middle where they should be coming back. Our forces here, our teams out in the water, our boats are launched or will be imminently. So yeah, it's just coming along great.
Yeah. It's really nice to see. We did see some of those boats float behind us. We were hoping to give you a live view, but of course they floated right out of the camera shot as you came to us. But so basically the team right now here on the ship, basically like monitoring mode, but really things will pick up about 15 minutes after splashdown.
Yeah, so a couple minutes before splashdown, things are happening really, really fast. Some events during the re-entry, they're maybe a second or 2 apart, and so it just takes a whole lot of effort and a lot of updates back and forth between us and Houston to try to keep track of everything that's happening all in real time. And then after splashdown, that's when the recovery team really kicks into high gear. We have our boat teams, our boat crews going out, our divers doing hazardous assessments as they get progressively closer to the capsule, making sure it's safe for all of our people to go in, and it's also safe for the astronauts to come out, because really at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. Is we're going to make sure that the astronauts get home safe after their tremendous journey to the moon and back. But then also we have, like you mentioned a minute ago, all of our imagery helicopters are taking imagery, camera shots of it as it's coming in all the way through splashdown. I mean, they'll see it as soon as it crosses the horizon, all the way to the ocean here.
And then afterwards, we have to recover actually Orion to bring it into the well deck of the ship.
Absolutely, yeah. And so once the astronauts are safe on board, then those same dive teams are going to transition into securing the capsule. They'll position some equipment around it to kind of facilitate that. The ship will move into position. We'll attach a really big winch line to it, and then a bunch of tending lines. We'll pull the capsule around behind the ship, and then start to slowly bring it in. And then Orion comes in, goes hard down, and everyone cheers.
Great day, exactly. Lots to coordinate, a lot to manage. Basically planning for this recovery, Artemis recovery, started a month after Artemis 1 launched. That was the uncrewed test flight of the Space Launch System rocket as well as the Orion spacecraft. That was November 2022. A month later, all the planning for this. How does it feel to be so close to welcoming our friends, our astronauts home?
I mean, for the whole team, I walked around the ship this morning, just kind of visiting with a lot of people, a lot of groups, and just kind of get the feel of them. And everyone has that same kind of mentality. Everyone's excited. Everyone's thrilled to see all that work that we've been doing, like you said, for the last 3 years, since right after the last one came back till now. And some people even further back. Some of them go back a decade and so more. So everyone is just excited and they're ready. They're really ready for this. And just to be able to see our crew come back, that's going to be a thrill for everyone.
How are you feeling? Are you ready? Is this something you ever thought you'd be doing?
I'm ready. I'm excited. This has been the pinnacle of my career so far. It really has. I've seen a lot of firsts, a lot of lasts, but I can't think of ever topping seeing the first crew to go to the moon and back in 50 years, and to be here and be a part of that. And it's just a tremendous privilege. On behalf of the whole team, I'm thrilled, and so are all of us. We're ready.
Yeah, I definitely think that those words really embody how everybody on the ship is feeling. So thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate you being here. And so Rob, we'll toss it back to you again. We will continue to join you with live updates from the ship as much as possible.
Thank you, Megan. Back here at the Johnson Space Center, the entry team of flight controllers looking over the shoulders of Reed Wiseman and Victor Glover there on the flight deck of Integrity, and again, just below their feet in the mid-deck area, if you will, Christina Cook and Jeremy Hansen of the Canadian Space Agency. They're in the final review of their entry procedures and all of the activities that will follow here very shortly in trip hammer fashion. We should note that after splashdown occurs, the flight control team here in Houston will be monitoring the orientation of the Integrity spacecraft. We are expecting it to splash down upright in what is called the Stable 1 configuration, with the top of the spacecraft pointed upward. Stable 2 would indicate that it is upside down in the water. Regardless of the orientation, there will be 5 inflatable airbags called the CMOOS system. That's the acronym for Crew Module Uprighting System.
Houston copies.
Reed Wiseman acknowledging that the final steps in suit donning are now complete for the crew. Leak checks have been completed earlier. The CMOOS system, those 5 inflatable airbags, will be inflated with helium. Those airbags will ensure that the vehicle remains upright. While that activity is going on, the flight control team here will be checking the systems on Integrity, also making sure that there's no leakage of toxic gas from the spacecraft. It should take about 15 minutes from splashdown to the power down of all of the systems on Integrity. And at that point, assuming everything is in a nominal fashion, then the green light will be given for the Navy recovery teams to begin to make their way closer to Integrity, to begin the erection of a large inflatable life raft called a front porch that will be buttressed up alongside the hatchway to the spacecraft. That life raft will be used to bring the crew members out of this vehicle once the hatch is open, one by one. They'll get their land legs back after 9 days of weightlessness before they're put in harnesses to be hoisted one by one in sequential fashion in an alternating fashion to the 2 hovering Navy helicopters overhead.
Integrity first steps.
Go ahead.
Seats 3 and 4 connecting umbilicals. We're going to be stepping in a leak check soon. 1 and 2 will be seated. 3 and 4 will be free float, and we'll configure EPROC accordingly.
Houston copies all.
Reed Wiseman talking about the current procedures with the suiting of crew members and subsequent leak checks, a final leak check for all 4 crew members. Everything is actually running a few minutes ahead of schedule. So once the life raft is inflated next to the Integrity spacecraft and the recovery teams have arrived alongside of the vehicle, the hatch will be open and the crew members will be brought outside into that front porch, as it is called, one by one. They then will be hoisted into the hovering helos overhead, And those helos then will turn around once the 4 crew members are on board, 2 for each helicopter, and will head back to the ship. That should be about a 10 to 15-minute transit. Once the helicopters land on the deck of the USS John Murtha, the crew members will be exiting those helicopters and brought into medical bay on the deck on the ship itself for comprehensive medical exams. They will spend a period of time yet to be determined on board the USS John Murtha before they are flown by helicopter to the shore in San Diego, to the San Diego Naval Air Station, and ultimately will board a NASA jet for the flight back to the Johnson Space Center here in Houston. Just to recap some of the key times that are coming up, we are expecting the separation of the crew module from the service module just 43 minutes from now. That is expected to occur at 6:33 p.m. Central Time, 7:33 p.m. Eastern Time. That will be followed just 4 minutes later by the crew module raise burn, the use of Integrity's thrusters one final time in a 19-second burn to slightly tilt the vehicle up into the correct orientation or angle of attack to ensure that it enters the Earth's atmosphere at the right angle, if you will. That will help deflect the buildup of heat against Integrity's heat shield. This was a deliberate move, a change in the procedures from the Artemis 1 mission that resulted in unexpected char loss on the Avcode heat shield that had not been intended based on the entry trajectory for the Artemis 1 mission. What we're doing is we deliberately changed the trajectory of the entry from a skip entry that was about a 3,000-mile transit across the Pacific Ocean. We are expecting now from entry interface to the point of splashdown to have a range of just 1,701 nautical miles, and that in of itself will reduce the exposure time of heating on the heat shield of the spacecraft. Once the raise burn is complete, then the stage is set for entry interface at 6:53 and 31 seconds p.m. Central Time. That means that Integrity will be entering the Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of 400,000 feet, traveling at about 34,882 feet per second, heading for its splashdown site off the coast of San Diego, as you just heard from Megan Cruz on the deck of the USS John Murtha. Splashdown once again under those 3 main parachutes is expected at 7:07 and 8 seconds p.m. Central Time, 5:07 p.m. Pacific Time, 2.5 hours before sunset. The actual total distance traveled for Integrity from launch to splashdown is estimated at 694,481 statute miles. Now that includes the first high elliptical Earth orbit following launch that enabled Integrity to move to 43,000 miles above the Earth at its apogee and enabling a 24-hour period of systems checkouts before the flight control team here and the mission management team gave approval for Integrity to conduct its translunar injection that propelled it on its way to the moon and its historic lunar flyby. So the total distance we expect this vehicle to have traveled at splashdown, 694,481 statute miles. With everything proceeding on track and on time aboard Integrity, the vehicle system is in excellent shape as the Earth grows larger in the field of view. Let's go back to the USS John Murtha and Megan Cruz, who is standing by.
Hey, yeah, Rob, welcome back. Again, we are out in the Pacific Ocean, staged just about 6.5 miles from where we expect Orion to splash down now in just over an hour. How exciting. And the weather, awesome conditions here. I know you see some wind blowing around my hair, but really nothing to speak of when it comes to having to recover our astronauts, as well as no waves here, really. So yeah, we're expecting a really great day. Also, hopefully, some really great views. You can see behind me that some of the clouds are starting to break up, so that's really exciting. And now, of course, the ship has a lot of people ready and excited to welcome our crew back home, including Dr. Rick Sherring here. He is a NASA flight surgeon. Great to have you here, Ray.
You too, Megan. It is a blessing to be out of this day with our teams. We trained 3 years for this, nonstop with the U.S. Navy and along with EGS, and we so look forward to this day. And just by God's grace, everything's partying, the skies and everything. The crew's doing great. Looking forward to come back, and our team's ready. So this is one of those days you've dreamt about, and now it's finally here, and we're ready, and just thankful to be a part of it.
Yeah, you play a really integral role. When was the last time you spoke to the crew, and how are they feeling in this last hour before splashdown?
Sure. Yeah. So the crew woke up when they splashed down. They were woken up about 8.5 hours ago. Me and my fellow crew surgeons, Drs. Chris Haas and Rafi Kumjian from the Canadian Space Agency, spoke with them about 6.5 hours ago, just to double check on how they were doing, if there's any medical issues, how they slept, and then kind of go over their landing day protocol for the medications, what we call fluid load, to try to replace some of the fluid and electrolytes that they've lost with just a normal space adaptation. Once they got to space, they kind of have to re-replace some of that fluid to help them with the whole landing kind of readaptation to 1G, which they haven't done for the last 10 days. And then just kind of let them know how things are going to play out, out with the open water teams all the way until we finally get to the med deck. So they were very pumped up, very hurried though. They had a lot of cabin configuration, a lot of things to get ready. So they're excited, but also very focused on the job that they had to do. So again, we trained a long time for this, and we're ready.
And you said some medications. I mean, those are kind of just to mitigate the effects of, obviously, they're more than 695,000 mile journey back to Earth. It's just like anti-nausea medication, right?
Yeah, exactly, Megan. The astronauts are very healthy, fortunately, and even when they come back to re-entry, the human system is very kind of dynamic. It has to readapt very quickly, and one of the most common responses they get is just some stomach awareness, to some nausea, even to some vomiting. And with our crews that land out in Kirigana, the Soyuz crews or our SpaceX crews, they all kind of experience the same thing. This will be the first time we're landing in water since December 1972, and I worked with all the Apollo astronauts years ago, and they all told me that landing in the water, especially in the Pacific, can be very provocative. So we take steps to give them medicines to really mitigate some of that nausea, vomiting, help them feel a little bit better, and also sometimes just use a little anti-inflammatory medicine just to help with coming back to 1G. The effects of microgravity, especially as you age and you have arthritis, you feel great microgravity. And everyone kind of curses coming back to the ground like, oh dang, 1G, but so that helps a little bit. But for the most part, the main thing is just replacing that fluid and then trying to help them with that transition back to 1G, and then we're ready to go.
Yeah, and their health is assessed almost immediately after they splash down.
Yeah, so we have Dr. Jesse Wang, and we have our independent duty corpsmen, who are the Navy Virgin paramedics, extremely highly trained, highly experienced Navy medics and divers, who will go out there, open the capsule about 25-28 minutes after splashdown, and do the first initial assessment. So Jesse and his team will go out there and look at each crew, kind of do their assessments, get vital signs, report back to Dr. Haas and Kumji and I back in medbay, let them know how they're doing, and then if they've got the normal kind of space adaptation kind of things, we expect that they're good to go on that. If anything didn't go the way we want, they're all prepared for that as well. And Jesse and his team, I mean, this is their full-time job, taking care of sailors and folks who might be injured. We don't expect any injuries, but coming back, going 25,000 miles an hour down to 20 miles an hour is still a dynamic process. I've heard it described as kind of like a car crash. And then the crew will be ready to go, and Jesse and his team will make that transition to get them out to the front porch, do assessments on them again, call to our medbay, and then once we have that and they're all good to go and the crew's feeling okay, we'll hoist them up in the helos. It's about a 3-minute flight back to the flight deck, and that's where me and the astronaut chief Scott Teagle will actually meet them. I'll get eyes on them, make sure they're all good, to take very slow transitions, and then one by one we'll either get them out with the SMTs, the SAR MedTechs, under each arm, just kind of just walking very slowly to med bay, which actually helps them acclimate back to 1G. Or if they really don't have their sea legs back yet, then we might put them in what we call a stair chair, which will be right behind them, and then just very slowly kind of get them back into med bay to start our full assessments for the team.
Yeah, so a really great team here to support them as soon as they get back, and also all throughout the mission, of course. You talked a little bit about this, but obviously, we have seen astronauts return from the International Space Station for over 25 years, so we kind of know that that journey, how it affects the body. But yes, we're talking about humans returning from the moon for the first time since 1972. How is this different from your perspective?
So it's different in one very significant respect. On Apollo, for exercise, they had something called the Apollo Exergene, which is basically just a flight little canister with some ropes, and they would have resistance and kind of do that. And the Apollo astronauts really like that. They like the ability to exercise, because you decondition from a musculoskeletal standpoint, you lose your strength and your stamina very quickly. We had something called the Orion flywheel, which was able to impart much greater loads in terms of resistance, so they're able to do squats, deadlifts, different things, not dissimilar to what the ISS astronauts do, but with a lot less room to do it. And they also did rowing activities for cardiovascular health, and the crews loved it. But for the lunar crews, the future lunar crews, maintaining that physical conditioning, which our astronaut strength conditioning rehabilitation specialists, affectionately known as the ACE, to get them in the device, hopefully will maintain our astronauts are going to maintaining that physical conditioning is crucial for us being able to do those very and also the mental benefit. Sure. They just really like sweating, breaking sweat, and actually just feeling like they're just getting a workout.
Right.
So
thank you so much, Rick. I really appreciate it. I know they're going to be in good hands, so we'll let you get back to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the time.
Back to you, Rob.
Okay, Megan, back here in Mission Control in Houston. Everything is moving along in order. This view of Reed Wiseman on the left, Victor Glover on the right. We have good suit leak checks. Everything aboard integrity is in excellent shape. The vehicle, with the Earth growing larger and larger in the field of view, we're now just about 8,200 nautical miles away from Earth and closing in for a splashdown just 1 hour and 5 minutes from now.
Integrity, just under a minute till your GPS maneuver initiates, and both GPS units look eager to acquire.
Outstanding. Seats 3 and 4 are working on seat strap in now.
Houston copies.
Once again, as we start to close in on some of the major milestones, so the first one coming up in just 31 minutes.
And Integrity, just confirming the LCG gas trap was able to be closed out.
Affirmative.
Crew module, service module separation schedule just